Here are 10 more drilling tips I posted as shorts videos over the past couple of years. Some old favorites, some you've probably never seen. All not in that annoying vertical format. Like my last full-size tip video, I've indexed each of the tips, so you can skip ahead if you've already seen it. You'll also find helpful links in the description to go along with the video.
There's a flame that burns inside myself.
If you drill a hole and find that you're off by just a hair, trying to drill next to the hole is incredibly difficult as the bit will want to travel the path of least resistance and back into the hole you originally made. To fix this problem, you could use a file, but let's face it, you need several files with different diameters. You can buy these drill bits that have teeth on the side of them. They're not like a router bit, so don't expect them to do a lot. In a pinch, and for much less, you can use a carriage bolt. I run a die on the carriage bolt I plan on using it as it actually makes the thread sharper. After threading it back into the errant hole, I chuck it up in a hand drill. While spinning, I move the bolt back and forth like a saw, while pulling it to where I meant to drill. It's an easy fix if you're just slightly off from the original hole you intended on making. These work in a pinch as any size bolts you have can be used. For a more permanent solution, a stainless steel bit works just as well and stays sharper longer. Every once in a while, even the ardent, dedicated woodworker will need to add a machine screw hole and a piece of metal when making things. You'll need 3 materials before getting started: the tap, the correct drill bit, and oil. You can buy a large set of tap and dies, but if you only need a single hole, buy a drill bit and tap combo. Trust me, it'll make your life much easier. Tapping a hole should almost always be done with a drill press or a lathe, as you're making precise threaded holes and need to have things perfectly parallel. Start off by drilling your hole. With a tap, chuck it in a drill press or your lathe and add oil to the hole. Turn the chuck by hand and let it catch in the steel, but don't push it. Back it at a half turn and twist it back in again. This process is known as breaking the chips, and you'll do it every time you feel the steel catch. After a few turns, add more oil. A good trick is to catch your tap in your material and chuck your tap in a vise, twisting the steel instead of the bit. If you'd like to see the complete process, I added screws to a flush chisel I made using this method in my latest video. I have a link in the description below. While the drill press outshines the hand drill in vertical accuracy, it can still fail to drill a 90-degree hole. Back in bite size number 37, we talked about locking the drill press table before every use, as the table actually droops a couple degrees when it's unlocked. But even after locking the table, we're contending with another beast that is much more formidable than a sagging table. Drill bits, no matter the material used or the diameter, have a higher chance of flexing the farther the bit is placed away from the chuck. Thicker drill bits struggle less, which is why drill bits get shorter as the diameter shrinks. You can give yourself a better chance of getting a straighter hole the farther you chuck your bit in. Larger bits are pretty safe and most wood chucked a couple inches in. Chuck troublesome bits in so that you leave yourself with about 1/4 of an inch hanging out. Start your hole and drill down until you almost hit the chuck, then reposition the bit lower and drill again. Giving yourself a countersunk hole helps to keep the rest of the drill bit in position as you finish the hole. This tip is especially vital for harder materials like steel. If you want a vertical hole that's 90 degrees, the drill press is the place to start, but not every project can fit under the spinning chuck. Instead, we need to bring the drill press to the project we're working on by creating a template on a piece of stock. We can do this by taking a thick piece of scrap and drilling the hole we need to make with our drill press. Using either twist or brad point bits, we can transfer the hole by clamping or holding the stock as we drill. Besides drilling into horizontal planes that won't fit under the drill press, we can also take vertical pieces and drill more precise holes. To drill a perfectly centered hole in the end of a piece of round steel, take a piece of thick square scrap and clamp it down. Drill an outer hole that fits on the rod, and follow it with the correct hole we need to add. Slide the block over the rod to drill a perfect center hole. To drill out end-accurate holes in rectangular stock, cut a piece of the stock off, clamp the cutoff to your table and add your holes. Use a vice grip pad to attach, and then drill the holes out. If a hole is going to be visible, you can hide it or embellish it by adding a plug. A plug cutter creates a disc that can easily be added to hide a hole. But wait, why not use a dowel? A cutoff from a dowel gives us end grain instead of face grain, which absorbs more finish and becomes darker. If you're not looking for any kind of pattern, a dowel is an easy fix. But if you're looking to hide the hole or embellish it by keeping the figure, here are a few tips to use when cutting plugs. Plug cutting is still cutting a hole, but unlike a Forstner bit that steadies the cutter head, these hollow bits need the stock to be clamped down. Use a thicker piece of stock and partially drill in. This will allow you to cut to size later on, and it won't have tear out on the back side. If your bits get hot, it's likely to expand, creating plugs that are slightly larger. Keeping the press at its lowest setting keeps the heat down. Use water if you're doing several plugs. Use cutoffs from the original stock drill to get a better match. For a cleaner cut, use Vaseline. Adding a little lubrication reduces friction, which keeps bits sharper and even allows duller bits to cut a little cleaner. Use a sander after gluing them in to fill any gaps. If you're not getting a 90-degree hole with your drill press, you might as well be using a hand drill. That 90 degrees should not only be north to south, but east to west. But finding that compass sweet spot isn't always easy. You're contending with the table that drops when you loosen the lock, and manufacturer's gauges aren't always accurate. You can use a machinist square, but accuracy is better found with a wider breadth from the center of the table out. One method I've seen is to take a wire and create a Z with it. You'll put one end in the chuck and check to see if it hits all 4 quadrants of your drill press table on the same plane. This works, but I came up with a simple jig that I like a little better that helps to visualize the process with a pencil. I used my bandsaw to cut notches on either side of a strip of wood that are large enough to fit a 1/4-inch bolt and a pencil. Tape a piece of paper down and raise the table so that the pencil barely touches the paper and spin. East to west is easy to fix by loosening a locking nut, but north to south can be fixed by shimming a piece of aluminum strip from a pop can between the column and the adjuster. Fortunately, we rarely need to do things like drilling a hole into the side of a dowel rod. Every once in a while, the occasion does come up. I've got a dowel that I'll use as a cheap, simple handle for a vise I'm installing, and I'm going to add a couple bolts on either side to prevent the dowel from slipping out of the vise. Technically, I could drill a hole with my drill press anywhere on the dowel and still have the ability to thread a bolt through, but I want both holes to be on the same plane. I'll turn instead to a V-block. We'll grab a speed square and add sections on a 1x2 into segments with a 45-degree angle drawn on the face. After using the bandsaw to cut the pieces down, I'll attach them to a piece of plywood with super and wood glue. Now to find the direct center of the crest of the dowel, I'll chuck a brad point bit in my press and scratch the top. I'll measure the scratch length to find the center, and Bob's your uncle. We'll drill it out. When I'm done, I can be sure that my holes are centered as well as on the same plane with each other. I did things a little quickly here, but to see the entire process, check out the description for drill press V-block. If you need to drill a hole in a piece of wood, there's a set of rules that never fail. Always use an awl on points you need to drill. Twist drill bits due to accuracy are only good with wood below a 1/16 of an inch unless you need to make a hole larger. You can actually do a really good job of creating a countersunk hole by first starting out with a brad point bit and following up with a twist bit. Brad point bits are designed to work with wood and do well with creating flat bottomed holes. No other bit between a 1/16 of an inch to a 1/2 of an inch will cut as well. You can use a backer board to prevent tear out, but it's much easier to lock a drill press or use tape as a depth gauge. And drill from the opposite side once the point is exited the bottom. Forstner bits below 9/16 of an inch are problematic as they can easily pack full of sawdust. I have yet to find a Forstner bit that extracts dust well enough to break this rule. If you can find a set that excludes these smaller diameters, you're better off for it. Anything above 2.5 inches can be done easier with a hole saw. Using a Forstner bit on the inside or outside of the hole can create an exit hole for sawdust to escape. And finally, set your drill press to its slowest speed for every hole you drill. If you need to drill 90-degree holes, they're best done with the drill press. Hand drills don't typically offer this precision, right? Not necessarily. Years ago, I picked up one of these little handles. On the platform, you're limited to 3 sizes you can drill: 3/8, 3/16, or 1/4 of an inch. Each hole has a steel collet that fits the drill bit precisely. So when you're making a hole, it's like you're using a drill press. But if I'm being honest, there are a lot of flaws with this handle. The flat handle angle, combined with the possibility of it jarring as I'm bearing down on the drill during operation, keeps me from really loving it. Other techniques I've seen involve taking a notch in a piece of stock, putting the bit into it, and making the hole. It works, but it's temporary until you destroy the notch with a drill bit. On my second channel, I made a video showing a different method. This one involves using a handle you can pick up at any hardware store. The block is angled and you attach the handle, giving you a better grip and allowing you to hold it in place as you press the drill. I used V-shaped steel that's epoxied into an angled notch. To use it, make a dimple in the wood with an awl, place the brad point bit in the angle, center it on the jig, and you're ready to go. Drilling large holes with a hand drill at a perfect 90 degrees? Nearly impossible. Homemade jigs work fine for smaller brad point bits, but for larger holes, they're expensive and just not practical. Switch to inexpensive spade bits or Forstner bits and you can drill quickly, but keeping the drill at a perfect angle, that's no small feat. With a quick jig I came up with, we can drill some of the most perfectly perpendicular holes you've ever seen. Instead of referencing the full length of a brad point bit like traditional jigs, I decided to focus on the shaft of larger boring bits like the spade or Forstner bits for unbeatable accuracy. This jig has just 2 parts, one for the diameter of the bit itself and a second for the shaft. I'll start by removing enough material from the bottom half, using either a bandsaw or a Forstner bit to make it universal. On the second part, we'll drill a hole size of the diameter of the shaft. Then we can attach both pieces with a couple screws. To use a jig, just slide it through the bottom, attach your drill, and start drilling. And if you need to drill deeper, just remove the base and finish the hole. Thank you, friends, for joining me. If you found a tip you can use, please let me know in the comments. It helps more than you know. As always, I want to thank my patrons for help keeping these videos rolling. If you'd like to become part of the team or throw a tip in the jar, check the link in the description. And remember to keep making things.
There is a flame that burns. burns inside myself.